On this episode, I'm hosting Sonny Ouma, a former street kid, who is going to tell us why he ended up on street and why street family should be given a higher priority when it comes to raising them. So my name is Jael Musumba. Let's get his story. Sonny.
Yes.
Mambo.
Poa sana.
Kwa mzima?
Kama garange la mvule.
Uko vipi?
Uko salama sana, nashukuru.
Ningependa ujitambulishe, tupe majina yako, alafu tueleze maisha yako. Ni vipi ulijikuta ukiishi maisha ya street?
So kwa majina ni Sonny Ouma. Na nizaliwa mtaa wa Kangemi. Nikalelewa pale Kibagare slums. Na being third born in a family of 6, my sister couldn't be able to go to school, my elder brother too, and so being that wazazi pia hawakuwa na ile uwezo wa kufanya kazi ama kupata kazi ambayo ingeweza kupatia chakula na kuweza tu sisi kuishi kama familia zile zingine, ilitubidi mimi na ndugu yangu mkubwa end up kwa street, na tulianzia pale katika soko ya Kangemi, na hapo ndio maisha ilianzia kuwa ngumu. Wakati tulijipata sasa ni lazima tujitafutie, kwa ile hali ya kuokota nyanya, tunaenda tunauza kwa hizi vibanda, vitunguu pia. Tumeenda kwa wale wa mama ambao wanauza viazi kwa soko, wakikuwa wamekaa vibaya tunaweza kuchukua zile viazi na kuzirepackage na kuenda kuuza kusudi tuweze kupata pesa. Na hizi pesa tukipata mengi ilikuwa tunaenda kuwatch movie, yani keep too busy tukiwatch movie na maybe tupate pesa ya kuweza kukula chakula. Na ilikuwa ngumu kwa sababu hapo ndio pia tulianza ile hali ya kuweza kuchukua vitu ambazo si vyako, kama chupa ya soda tungeweza kuiba chupa kwa vioski za watu tukienda kuuza. Moja tulikuwa tunauza shilingi 5 ama 10 zile kubwa, na ilikuwa mbaya kwa sababu hapo ukipatwa ilikuwa ni vita, kwa sababu ile hali ya kuiba vitu za watu ilikuwa ngumu. So hapo ilikuwa ilikuwa ni jambo ambalo tulikuwa tunafanya tukirudi nyumbani jioni. Tunaenda tunalala nyumbani, but asubuhi na mapema mimi na ndugu yangu tunatoka tunaenda kuendelea na hiyo kazi. Pia ilikuwa tunaweza kuchotea watu maji. Kuna wale mama ambao walikuwa wanafanya kazi kwa salons, na in those salons we were able to fetch water in jelly cans, and they would give us like a few coins, and that was just life going on. And ilikuwa ngumu kwa sababu saa zingine chakula haipatikani, na hiyo ilini affect sana, especially ukijipata unatafuta chakula kwa takataka. But then tulikuwa tunadhani tu ni kawaida.
Wakati huo wazazi walikuwa wanajua ni kazi gani ambayo mnafanya, ama mnapotoka asubuhi walikuwa wanajua mnaelekea wapi? Were they comfortable with whatever you are doing?
Parents now mamangu hakuwa anajua, kwa sababu for sure my mom was very hard working. Alikuwa anauza mahindi, anachoma mahindi kwa barabara ili tuweze kupata chakula, ama pia angeweza kwenda kufulia watu manguo katika estate ambayo ilikuwa karibu Loresho Estate, and it was very hard. And when we went back home, we would see her frustration after neighbors tell her like, hey, we saw your children begging in the market, or like watoto wako walikuwa wanapigwa kwa soko kwa sababu walikuwa wameiba nyanya ama vitunguu. So we would see that frustration, and my mom would really punish us for running, but sometimes also kuwa na ile uwezo. So in as much as ako mkali kwetu, but sisi tukikuja nyumbani tunakuja nyumbani kama tumeshiba, hatuna njaa ama tutamlilia mam tunataka hii. So ilikuwa ngumu, na hapo ndio mamangu akatuweza kutuchukua kutupeleka kwa a neighbor ambaye alikuwa na run kama homeschool. Ilikuwa tu kwa nyumba yake, na alikuwa anakaribisha watoto kuja na kusoma kwake. Mpaka sasa anafanya kuna shule ambayo inaitwa Kanyorosha Primary School, which is running up to date, and I thank him so much for just coming in and offering just that support to just educate us, even since my parents were not in a position to take us to school. So that was hard, but tukiwa when we were still in Kangemi, there's this an American lady who came and found us eating from the trash and just asked if she can take us to a nice place, a safe space, a resource center.
How old were you at that moment?
At that age, I was 9. So, and I was, at first we were hesitant on going, but then she just told us like it's a nice place, we'll be able to read books and find food. So me and my friends decided to go there. For sure it was a nice place. We would get breakfast and she allowed us to even go home and then every morning be reporting to the center, which was nice. But since we had already started earning money in the, while in the market, it started getting hard, and she gave us a little rules which we were not going by the rules. So we just decided, I remember we were just with friends like, hey, let's go back to Kangemi, and that's how we went back, and we never returned back to her place. And while we went back to Kangemi is when a few friends introduced us to Westlands. And in Westlands is where now, in Kangemi there were no drugs, people were not using drugs, it was just eating from the trash and like just doing the small jobs. But then when we went to Westlands is when that was my first time to see people sniff glue. And it didn't take long time before I also saw my brother doing it. And my mom would come look for us. So some of the boys would tell us like, hey, your mom was here and it was hard. Just knowing like your parents is looking for you, and sometimes she would take us back home, but that will not again stop us from that will not stop us from going back, because the good thing with being in the street, we would get food, especially where our base was, close to the roundabout in Westlands. People would just come and give us bread and milk, and we would also beg, and we had various strategies that we would get food from people. I remember we would just tungejikata mikono, yani kidogo tu na chupa ili damu iweze kutoka, na nikienda kuomba mtu anaona mtoto hata damu inatoka, ameumia, wacha nimsaidie. So hizo ndio mbinu ambazo tulikuwa tunatumia kwa kuweza kupata pesa ama kuomba chakula, which was nice. But also it was hard, especially when it was raining and you have to sleep under those tunnels. It was hard, being that when it rains you just have to struggle finding a place to sleep. And also the county council, Kanjo, they were not so nice to us. So there is a time we were taken to Joseph Kang'ethe Rehabilitation Center, but we didn't stay there long because they were able to be taking us to any government institution that works with street families. But the good thing, they would take me with my brother, and I was young then, so we would always find opportunities and ways. My brother would be like, I'm taking my younger sibling home, and but that will not stop him now from continuing. So iliendelea hivyo, and it was hard. One day I remember there's this our friend who was molested. It was a boy, and he came to us not walking well, and like we didn't also understand then like such things happen. But once like there's a guy who noticed that, and he was taken to hospital. That was something like came to us being like, wow, like also hard things can happen here, and we didn't know if he's going to survive, because we explained like it was a very bad thing that has happened to him. And I remember that night, I ran back home because it was a walking distance from Kangemi to Westlands. So I went back home, and while I was at home, my siblings was also rescued by a very good friend. We usually thank her for rescuing my brother then. She was working at Safaricom, but then the problem, we went back again. And it was sad for that lady that rescued my brother, because she was willing to take him to school and everything. But once she saw my brother with a glue, that was the end of her even supporting, because she was also promised to even take me in with my brother. So we continued being in Westlands until a nun, a sister from St. Martin's came through and asked, like kind of asked, but we were hesitant on going, being that we had also been rescued once. Na ile hali ya kukataa, tukajipata tu vijana kama 10. We said yes and we were taken in. But as we were going into St. Martin's, then it was a children's home. The soldier there spotted us, and since we looked alike, and the guard knew my mom, and he was like, "Oh, sister, I know this, the parents to this." No. How? And then that's how the social worker was able to reconnect to my mom, and my mom pleaded with the nun that even if we can stay at the children's home, but the social worker there shared that it is good if we live in the school, because the children's home fence was just, our house was there, like the fence was the only,
wall was the one separating
the wall was the only thing that is separating our house and the center. So they were like, there is no need, you can just be staying with them. And so I'm so happy that they took that, they allowed us to be going to school, but it was hard. Being that we were already used to money, and we were used to money and no rules out there.
Life.
Yes, no.
It's full of freedom.
Yeah, there was freedom. We would go wherever we want to go. If we just decide we want to just do anything.
Make decisions on your own.
Yeah, make decisions on our own. We would just do that. But then once we went to the center, it was hard. Performance-wise, it was hard, especially being that I wasn't a good performer, and understanding things in school was hard. So we would still, even as we were given opportunity to go to the center, still not go daily and find ourselves back to Westlands and begging. And there were places we would go to eat. There's this place in Wayakiwe, it's called Sailam, where we would go there every Sunday and get food. And the good thing, like, since we also had other siblings, we would go all of us there, and if they are issuing bread, they will issue us six loaves of bread, and so we'll be able to take home. So knowing like there were places we would go get food was easier for us to even be out on the streets than being in the school to continue with our education. So for me, I want to say, like, it was just lucky. I feel like I was so lucky that I didn't continue, because my brother went back to the street, and it was hard for him to go back to continue with education, and he dived into drug, and once it was just hard for him to even stop using the hard drugs, and so for him he dropped out of school in grade 4, and me, I continued miraculously, just being that though it was hard, being I never performed well in class, and sometimes I would go in school with torn clothes, and people would laugh at us because where our house was strategically placed, it was like in a slope. So even my classmates would laugh at our house, being that it was also made of it was a mud, like is it a mud house? And when I got to my class 8, where I wanted to see, I was to sit for my KCP exam. My mom encouraged me, like, yeah, it's well, Sonny, just go do this exam, don't be nervous, it is well. And for sure I believed, like, yeah. And the way she was speaking, I knew like she also did it and passed. But later on in life, I realized like she had not gone through that, but she was just encouraging me to persevere on. I sat in my exams, and I'm not encouraging people or students to guess, but I didn't know especially more of mathematics. So I would just be praying that through the multiple choices that I am making, that God will just help me and be the correct one. And once the results came out, I was just we were just playing casino with my friends, and they came to me asking like, "Hey Sonny, so you've been studying hard at night, and you're acting like you're playing with us. So why have you like?
How did you manage to get this?
Yeah, how did you perform well?" I was like, "What? Me, I've never performed well. You just stop joking." So for me, I thought like it was just a joke. But then I took my friend. We went to the school, and looking on the sheet, started on the top, going down, and top 50. I'm not there. I was like, these people were just joking. You know, I was anxious, being like, kwani I'm number one. So I started up there. I was not there, and I started below there because I knew this is my area. And by God's grace, I had performed well. I was average. A student who had never, yes, above average. A student who had never scored above 200 marks out of 500 was able to score 269. Yeah, that was a blessing. That was a miracle. And I became the first in my family to ever even sat for the national examination. It was a celebration at home. But also it was a celebration, but also it came with stress, being that my mom now was kind of stressed where she's going to even to get money to take me through high school. And I remember she was stressed. But then, by God's grace, she had gone to secure a chance, and which she got a chance at Kangemi High School for me to go there. But I met with her after visiting the school, St. Martin's. They had already secured for me a high school, but the high school that I was called to go was not taking the marks that I had. It was taking above 350, and but on top of that form, it was written special admission. That's how I just feel like God was in this story, being that He just was leading our steps, and through the school was able to take us to the school. Like the only thing that I went with to that school was my that box. And then they bought for me shopping, everything, and they ferried me and my other students to that school, Magumu High School. And that was the beginning of kind of just hope in my family, because after I finished my primary school, my other siblings started having also that hope. That, you know what, if Sonny did it, I'm also able, we can still manage. And it's a desire that helped them keep fighting through. So while I was in also high school in Form 1, so the school didn't pay the full amount. So because they had a partnership, and the partnership ended by the time we were joining. So that whole year, in my mind, I thought the school had already paid, but we came to realize after in second year that the school had not paid for the first year. So I had a lot of school balance in my school, and it was hard. So every time students were being sent to go home to collect school fees, I was always part of it. And we usually made jokes, because anytime we would see, they would announce it in the assembly that they are going to send students home, we'll just start packing. Like I would start packing, and there's a time I packed, but my name was not there, so I felt so bad seeing other students going home. But so in Form 2, Form 3, I would go home most of the time and engaged in casual jobs. I remember I joined my dad where my dad was working. There's a Mjengo construction site going on. So I was working there for kind of 3 weeks, trying to see ways to raise money, but it wasn't enough because they were paying me 250 a day. So it was hard even to accumulate to the 50,000 amount that was needed. So I went back to the organization that was sponsoring my education. Then they were giving partly, but they were not giving full scholarship. And through the work that I helped them while I was being like, my mom would go there and cry to them for support, God opened an opportunity that I was enrolled into a scholarship program through the organization. And that changed my trajectory, being like that aspect of being sent home. Now they were able to pay full amount, and I just may the Lord bless that organization for the great work that they did in my life, the Unbound family. May God just bless you, because that changed everything in my life. I wasn't a good performer, but through the scholarship program,
you managed to clear Form 4.
Yes, the number one rule was you perform well, and I used to be a D student. It was hard. I remember there's a time I used to change my result so that I don't
fail out from being sponsored.
Yes, fail from being sponsored, because I know at home I'm not going to get school fees. I apologized for that, because it was just a way of kind of survival for me. But then, even as I knew I'm changing my results, because my parents would not know, I would just use whiteout and change from E, I would put a D or a C plus or something. My parents didn't understand what those grades meant, but for the organization it was very needed. But then I was like, now I'm going to Form 4, how am I going to fake that? I can't. So I just have to study hard. And that's when I changed my habits, groups, the bad things that we were doing. I performed well, though not as I used to, as expected, or as the result that I used to submit to the scholarship program. But at least I got an average. I got a C plane, and through the organization also that supported my through the scholarship, like paid for my college fee, and I was able to go through college and studied social work and community development. Yeah.
So Sonia, as we wrap up, having been through all this tough life, and then here there is a change of events. You are now you are now, at least there is a future ahead of you. How does this affect? How does your history affect you, especially unapotembea? Labda you meet some street families, or probably you are heading somewhere and then you see a truck of waste being loaded somewhere. Does it affect you in any way?
Yeah, that is very sad. Sometimes I walk through Loresho Estate, because it's still the place where I grew up. When I see those trash cans, even at home, when I open the trash can and the smell just hit me, tears usually just flow down, remembering, remembering I used to eat on this. I usually struggle a lot, so I usually not, I avoid going through that, or even just passing along this trash truck that usually collect trash around. I remember it just brings that memory to me, and it's sad, as you have said. Sometimes I walk and see children. To me, I just see a reflection like few years ago. This was just me begging along, walking around collecting ground nuts from the ground, like eating like maize and stuff. So like it brings me those kind of memory. But now, being like the work that I'm also doing, like I'm able to now overcome and just know like it was all God's plan. It wasn't just a coincidence. Yeah.
So as we close, because of time, first of all, I want you to highlight what are the key points that make most of the street families bounce back to the street. And then also you had mentioned something about culture being one of the key points that is triggering the high rise of street families. So just point out, because of time, just highlight about it and tell us how can we prevent all this.
So I started an organization after going to school. It's called Giving Back Hope Together. And Giving Back Hope Together, it's basically meaning me and you coming together and trying and changing the life of children in our society. The question that you've asked about, like there are so many children and cultures that are hindering children. Even if you want to take them off the street, the cultures are not allowing them, are not allowing the children even to go there. Like there are some instances where I took children back home. The parents are like, no, this child is an adult. He has gone through initiation, circumcision. Now, after going through that, he cannot come back to my house. He need to go and fend for himself. And sometimes they are young, they are 16 years old. So a 16-year-old thinking about owning their own home or stuff. Also, another reason like why also children run to the streets is also poverty. So life is so difficult and so hard that sometimes parents are even the ones sending those children to go and beg. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but sometimes that's why I'm like, if we
that's
listen,
where life can push
yes,
you to.
yeah, life can push you too. So they are not generally like people. The society has made the word street children. You mention a street children, somebody feels like he or she is insecure, is unsafe. No. We work with more than 100 street children every week. We visit them, talk with them, play soccer, and share hot meals. And we also reunify them back to their families. And those that are able to go back to school, we have a sponsorship program that we pay through their education. And also, we realize like the street problem, the street children problem, can be prevented. Is a preventable issue. So if the communities, if leaders are able to help us, have programs in various communities. Like in Kibagare slum, we are running a prevention program called Vocational Bible School, where children from the community come in and they learn the Word of God, and that one prevents them from even running to the street.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So thanks so much, Sonny, for sharing with us.
Yes.
And also thank you for the great job that you are doing to the street families. To my viewers, this marks the end of today's interview. Till next time, I'm your host, Al Msumba.